Get ready to hear the truth about America. A news show that isn't allergic to the facts. The Bold Conservative. Now, here's your host, James Ledbetter.
Hello. Welcome to another glorious day in the life of the Bold Conservative. I hope all my bold conservatives are doing okay today. Today, I want to talk about Cory Booker and Beto O'Rourke, both campaigning in Mexico. As mad as that sounds, it gets worse, folks. In the second half, we're going to talk about how a cop was kicked out of a Starbucks because of one person. They felt uncomfortable with the cop being there. But first, with the stock market as unassuring as it is these days, it is easy to make investment errors. However, there is a company just for the bold conservatives. We have an account, and market trading has never been easier. Forex.com does most of the work so that you don't have to. Yet they never make a move without informing the client first. Join a Forex network that has been proud to connect independent traders to the potential of the global currency market since 2001. Today, the pros at Forex.com continue to challenge themselves to provide traders with what they need to succeed. So head on over to Forex.com and speak to a representative who will handle all of your needs today. All right. That being said, first of all, Cory Booker headed to the Mexico border and apparently assisted 5 illegal aliens across the border. So basically you have Democratic President hopeful Senator Cory Booker traveled to Juarez, Mexico Wednesday, where he assisted asylum seekers across the Santa Fe Bridge into El Paso, Texas, according to reporters who accompanied Booker. And we have a clip. When he got there, he blamed everything on America. He blamed everything on President Trump. Roll clip number 1.
Well, look, first and foremost, this crisis we're seeing right now happened because Donald Trump took executive actions to make it happen. His criminalizing people's crossing, his zero-tolerance policies, his inhumane treatment of people in detention facilities, his instituting a choking of the ability for be able to make asylum claims and lessening that number. He's done numerous things that have violated our values, made us less safe, undermined human rights, and ultimately cost more taxpayer dollars when we could be doing this in a much more efficient, effective way to affirm our values and our security, as well as to affirm human dignity.
So Booker spent 4+ hours speaking with the asylum seekers at the organization International para las Migraciones, which is in Spanish. It's a Spanish word. In Juarez, prior to the border crossing. The action came following the campaign's statement to end the border crisis. So Booker was quoted as saying, "I'm going to fight for these 5 folks and do everything I can to see that they get fairly evaluated," Booker said after he arrived in El Paso. This is long process that they now engaged in, and I'm going to make sure my office does the right thing. So not only did Booker go over the border and campaign in a U.S. election, he assisted 5 felons. And I call them felons because, as you probably already know, it is a felony to try to cross the border the second time. These 5 individuals were reported to have crossed the border the first time and were deported back out of America. And then they entered with Cory Booker the second time, which makes it a felony. It's a misdemeanor the first time. Now it's a felony. Now Cory Booker, the 2020 Democratic hopeful, is assisting people in breaking our border laws. When speaking to reporters, Booker also took aim at President Trump, claiming he was to blame for the horrible things that are taking place at the border. It's given me greater conviction, Booker said, a greater sense of determination to fix this broken system and to correct the horrible things that Donald Trump is doing from the executive office. I believe that the next president can transform this system to make it safer and stronger as a nation. As mad as that sounds, he's not the only one that was campaigning last week. Also, you had Robert Francis or Beto O'Rourke campaigning in Mexico. Democratic 2020 presidential candidate Robert Francis Beto O'Rourke campaigned in Mexico Sunday with migrants not admitted to the U.S. at the southern border. O'Rourke called the Trump administration policies unlawful and inhumane in a post about crossing into Mexico on Sunday to meet with migrants waiting there for U.S. court dates. He used the visit to promote his own immigration plan. Roll Beto clip 1.
We know that people are literally losing their lives. We just heard this from the gentleman, losing their lives as they're no longer able to cross at ports of entry. They're trying to cross in between ports of entry. We as a country have decided that that's what they will do. We put them in this precarious position. We have caused this suffering. We also have the opportunity to make this better, to make this right.
So Beto is blaming President Trump. All of the 2020 candidates, Democratic candidates, are blaming you. They're blaming me. They're blaming President Trump. When all of this was a mess before President Trump even decided to run as president of the United States. How mad is that, folks? That they would take something like this and blame it all on President Trump. Why? Because President Trump will not open the borders and let them in. This is, as far as I'm concerned, this is confirmation that not only are the Democrats campaigning for open borders, but they're also campaigning for making illegal immigration legal. In other words, they don't want to punish these people for crossing our borders illegally. They don't want to punish these people for anything else that they're doing wrong, breaking our laws, whatever. So then Beto O'Rourke, in the same day, campaigning in another place, also blamed, he said that it's because of America. Climate change is because of America, and because of it being all America's fault, even though America is not the world leader in air pollution or anything like that. But since it's all our fault, we are entitled to let these people in without any repercussions at all. And I have another clip. Roll Beto clip number 2.
We've got to remember that they are fleeing the deadliest countries on the face of the planet today, compounded by drought that was caused not by God, not by Mother Nature, but by us. Man-made climate change, our emissions, our excesses, our inaction in the face of the facts and the science. When it is that deadly, and when you're unable to grow your own food to feed yourself, you have no choice but to come here.
So, it's all our fault. It's all America's fault. And because it's our fault, we have to allow illegal aliens to cross our borders, and we have to make it legal because it's our duty. Now, China, the world leader in air pollution and all that, they're not mentioned. Beto didn't mention China or India or any of the other countries. That's amazing. It's amazing that these people think that we, the American people, are that stupid. So they're going to say, and they are willing to say anything it takes, and to beat President Trump. Their main focus, their main goal is to beat President Trump. That is that's their only policy, folks. President Trump is camping out deep inside their head, and they hate it. They hate it to the point to where they're willing to lie, cheat, and steal to win this election. And if they lie, cheat, and steal, you know that they're going to try to steal the election. They're going to do whatever it takes. The DNC was proven to be corrupt in 2016, 2018, and now in 2020, because it's obvious. This should be the straw that broke the camel's back. But nobody is being held accountable. I mean, what 2020 U.S. president candidate should be allowed to enter another country and campaign? I mean, why Mexico? Why not go to Russia? Why not go to China? Why not go to Taiwan or Japan or Ukraine? Why just stay with Mexico? That's not legal, folks. And it's not normal. This is insane. And nobody's holding these people accountable. They should be held accountable completely and entirely. And nobody's saying a word. They're just complaining. All this complaining is not doing anything. All these ethics violations that's being committed, and nobody seems to care, except us, of course. But we're just a few voices among many. So, since we Americans are to blame for climate change, according to Beto O'Rourke, which, as you remember, Beto failed miserably in the first Democratic debates, and he was mocked ferociously for everything that he said and everything that he did. And speaking in Spanish when asked a question should have been the tip-off, but this just adds to that. Campaigning in Mexico, what would be the point in that unless you absolutely want these people to come over the border and vote illegally? Because it's illegal for a non-U.S. citizen to vote in any election. And people try to forget, and Democrats try to I hope you forget that Barack Obama told illegal aliens to vote back in 2015 and 2016. And then the news media tried to play it off like it never happened. Oh, it happened, and I remember, and I'm sure you bold conservatives remember. But as you know, and as you can see it playing out, they're going to try again to steal the election. They're going to try again to have illegal aliens vote. Why else would they be pandering to non-citizens? Why would they be favoring non-citizens? Because you have the walk away campaign where thousands and thousands of Democrats are leaving the Democratic Party. Then you have Brexit, where African Americans are leaving the Democrat Party. So they need somebody. So they chose to have Latinos vote for them instead. Be back after. Hi, this is James Ledbetter, host of the Bold Conservative Podcast. We want you to go to our online store and check out our merchandise because we have hats, caps, we have shirts, and we have mugs that will appeal to you, and each and every sale goes toward keeping and maintaining the podcast. You can get there by visiting www.theboldconservative.podbean.com and then head on up to the menu and click on store. Also, you can find the link in the description. Thank you. All right. Back from the break. So, at the end of last week, Fox and Friends reported that a group of cops were kicked out of a Starbucks. And it was all because one person felt uncomfortable with the cops being present at that moment. In other words, the cops were sitting in view of these people. We have a clip from the Fox and Friends, don't we? Yeah. Roll that clip.
The Tempe Police Officers Association putting this out, saying, quote, "We don't appreciate Starbucks asking our Tempe cops to leave your establishment on the 4th of July. Several of those cops are veterans who fought for this country, #zero respect." So this is an incident where apparently some people in the Starbucks there in Tempe didn't like the officers being there.
One customer did
complained.
not feel safe because police officers were eating apparently in his or her line of sight. So they were either asked to move to a different part of the Starbucks or leave altogether because one customer was triggered by the sight of a police officer.
It's crazy. And the Tempe Officers Association put out a statement in a tweet, I believe, saying this treatment of public safety workers could not be more disheartening. While the barista was polite, making such a request at all was offensive. Unfortunately, such treatment has become all too common in 2019. And I think that's true. I think there's been a vilification of police as if when they are in a place, apparently they're out to do wrong. People should be grateful. I would be really happy to see police anywhere. I feel much, much safer when they are present in any establishment. And I think that should be where your instinct goes to when you see a police officer. Yeah.
So, this happened in Phoenix, Arizona. Arizona is a red state. So this surprises me a little bit. But according to a tweet from the Tempe Officers Association, 6 Tempe police officers were drinking coffee before their shift when a barista told them a customer did not feel safe by their presence. So they didn't feel safe because there were 6 cops there. That's strange enough anyway. But then the barista allegedly asked the officers to move out of the customer's line of sight or to leave. The tweet states, and this is the tweet. This statement of public safety workers could not be more disheartening. While the barista was polite, making such a request at all was offensive. Unfortunately, such treatment has become all too common in 2019. So, Reggie Borges, a spokesman of Starbucks, said the company is still gathering details about the incident. And this is what Reggie said. "We have a deep respect for the Tempe police and their service to the community," he said. "We reach out to the Tempe Police Department and Tempe Officers Association to better understand what happened and apologize. We want everyone in our stores to feel welcome, and the incident described is not indicative of what we want any of our customers to feel in our stores. Borg declined to comment about any disciplinary actions. So an apology is not enough. I mean, you have these law enforcement officers taking a break from keeping the streets of Tempe safe. They're taking a break, so they go into Starbucks and try to enjoy their coffee. And because they are law enforcement officers, some idiot decided that they felt uncomfortable with the cops being there. Okay, this is one person. Anytime you go into a Starbucks, there's always like at least 20 or 30 people sitting in a Starbucks at a time, not counting the employees. So out of an estimated 30 to 35 people in the Starbucks location, one person felt uncomfortable. So it's time to make the officers leave, right? That makes no sense at all. So Starbucks does this to pander to the social justice warriors, and then all they have to do afterwards is just apologize. That's not good enough. That's not good enough for me, and it shouldn't be good enough for you. See, the thing is you've had an escalation of hatred toward law enforcement since Barack Obama. Of course, you had the Missouri stuff, and, you had all this stuff happening, all the riots and everything against cops. The Dallas cop was shot shortly after. The thing is this is what's going to end up happening. You're gonna have all of this animosity towards these cops. And it's going to get to the point to where these companies are going to call the police because they're being robbed or somebody's getting killed in their location, in their place of business. And the cops are going to be, timid to even approach, because every time they go somewhere in certain places, they are being harassed. They are being vilified, and by the very people that they are trying to protect. And that's really sad. So not only should Starbucks apologize, but they should get down to the bottom of this and fire employees that do not comply to the company rules. It's against the rules for a barista to kick anybody out that's just because they're an officer, or just because the color of their skin, or just because their political affiliation. And that's where we're headed. We're headed to the point to where all of these people, all of these social justice warriors, all they have to do is whine and cry, and then they get what they want. And by them getting what they want, they know that that's all they have to do. So then they go again, and they do it again, and they do it again. And that's how things are starting to get out of control. And Starbucks are just, here's the thing, and I believe it wholeheartedly, and I've seen it with my own eyes. These companies are getting woke, and the saying goes, get woke, go broke. And that's starting to be, because once again, to be a successful business, you cannot alienate half of the population and survive. So these companies, they're pandering to what they think is the majority, and it just so happens to be the minority. So they're pandering to the minority of people, and by doing that, they're alienating over half of their business. There was boycotts called on Starbucks over this, And you have to support your local law enforcement, folks, because your local law enforcement, if they weren't there, there would be people breaking into your house, kicking in your door, killing your family, robbing your house. And that's starting to happen because, and it's just like the Democrats, they're all, the far left Democrats, they're all starting to, call for the elimination of ICE. Well, and the Border Patrol. But here's the thing. The Border Patrol not only keeps our borders safe, but they have cut down drastically on fentanyl and other illegal drugs being transported into the United States over the border. Then you have the Democrats saying, well, most of these drugs are transported over the ports of entry. That's not true. That's just what you're catching. That's just what they're catching. There's a whole length. There's miles and miles and miles of border that is out in the desert. So think about it this way. Say you were a drug pusher, a drug trafficker. Are you going to go through the ports of entry, or are you going to find a nice big area to carry your drugs over to the United States? And then they have somebody on the other side of the border waiting for them to pick up the delivery. Then they drive off and they're not caught because the Democrats think we're that stupid. So the Democrats are calling for the abolishment of Border Patrol, the abolishment of ICE, and reform of local law enforcement agencies, which is really weird because these same officers are the ones that's going to be protecting them when somebody's trying to kick in their door. In a statement tweeted Saturday, Tempe police officer said it hoped this was simply an isolated incident between one community member and a single employee instead of reflecting on Starbucks as a whole. Starbucks states they are aware of this incident and advise this interaction is not in line with Starbucks values and will continue to work in strengthening their relationship with law enforcement, the police statement said. All right, so they've apologized. Okay, but they're still pandering. See, as you may recall, last year there were some black gentlemen in a Starbucks, and they weren't buying anything. And the rules of Starbucks was if you don't purchase anything, you have to leave. You can't just loiter around. So the baristas went to ask them to leave, and then the SJWs said that Starbucks was being racist. See, that word racist is being thrown around just as much as anything else is. And they're starting to devalue the word by using it so often. And anything now can get you called racist. Anything you do, anything you say. So what are we supposed to do now? So here's the thing. I'm not calling for a boycott of Starbucks. Of course, I won't be buying my coffee there. I haven't for a long time. And I still refuse to buy my coffee from Starbucks. Their coffee's nasty anyway. But I wouldn't go there. And I don't advise anybody else to go there. They're not my favorite place in the world. And anybody that kicks out law enforcement officers just because of one person, in my book, is worthless and un-American. But I thank you all for listening. This has been a wonderful day. Tune in tomorrow. We have a long news week ahead. See you all tomorrow.